Hey everyone, welcome back to your week ahead astrology breakdown. I'm Matthew Oliver with Stillwater Alchemy, and I have one really quick story to share before we go into the astrology, just about manifestation and how easy it can be. So I'm currently staying at a friend's place before I move to Vancouver next week, and I don't really use Starbucks that much, but I have the app. There's a loyalty program. You get stars. Stars equal free goodies. But I didn't really know this, but the stars can expire after a certain amount of time. So I looked and I'm like, oh, I lost like 107 stars. So in my mind, I was like, I can call the support line. Apparently, the support line often refuses people their refund on these expired stars. And I'm like, come on, Starbucks. However, I was like, I get to be the exception to the rule. Plus, I just put it out there. I'm like, you know what? Before I leave this space, I will get a free coffee. So today, right before I filmed this, I went across the street to grab a coffee and I just paid for a basic Americano. They're all really nice. It was a vibe. And then I'm talking to the one I see right behind him. There's like a nitro cold brew. And I was like, oh, I love cold brew, especially the nitro cold brew on top. I was like, oh, can I just have that? I'll pay the difference. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Pours me the nitro cold brew. I'm like, oh, that's so nice of him. And then he already started making the Americano. He's like, oh, like, do you just want this Americano as well? So nice. He was a Gemini. Of course, I asked. And then when I was walking out of the store, I'm like, oh, of course. Like I just put this out to the universe that I was going to get a free coffee before I left. And I did. So I just want to share that because I think sometimes, especially when there's like a very charged energy, like a full moon, that a lot of things come to the surface, or we want to use certain energetic transits to our benefit, which is happening this week, which is why I also want to bring up the story, is just the energy of non-attachment. Abraham Hicks always talks about the path of least resistance. So if we know that we want something and that we're going to get it, you don't need to know how, just why. In my case, it was justice. I was like, why are these stars expiring? That makes no sense. Starbucks is a multi-million, if not multi-billion-dollar corporation. They can have these stars last a long time. So I knew I was going to get it. And here is the exhibit A. So going into this week, I want to emphasize that we're still coming off of that full moon in Libra. And I'm going to talk about this more in the astrology question of the week, but there's still a period of integration, especially this past weekend, which on Friday and Saturday, the moon was in Scorpio, conjunct the South Node, moving through all that energy. So not only was it a full moon making a square to Mars, but it was also then going straight into Scorpio where the moon is in her fall, conjunct the South Node. A lot was likely to come to the surface to be released and purged. So honor that process, knowing that this week we're closing out Aries season. Not completely, but it's near the tail end. And remember that the sun is exalted in Aries. So what makes you happy? How do you want to be seen? Are you going after something new, something vibrant, something that excites you? That's the energy I want you to focus on as we start this week, because there's some really powerful, auspicious transits that we have this week that I really want you to be able to take advantage of. And once you get clear on what makes you happy and what you want, even in my little example of getting a free coffee, then the bigger things get to come with ease because you're banking up all these experiences of knowing that the works work, knowing what makes you happy can make you even more happy. And that just keeps growing from there. Okay. So let's hop in to the week, shall we? So we're starting on Monday, April 10th. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is the final day of Venus being in Taurus. So Venus at that 29th degree, that critical degree, the arenetic degree. We also see 3 planets in the North Node in Taurus. So there might be some energy that is culminating, that's finishing around love, beauty, worth, value, especially in that Taurus part of your chart. So be open to downloads, be open to synchronicities, see what's coming through on Monday. We also have the moon in Sag making that direct trine to the sun and Jupiter. So generally speaking, this is a Monday that's quite benevolent. We're leaving that square between the moon and Saturn, but the moon is making that applied square to Neptune. So if you're not focused, you could be swept in many different directions. I would stay in your lane. This is kind of the perfect example, especially with like a Sag moon. Prioritize joy, prioritize happiness. Good gets better, better and better, better expands, more blessings. Because if you can get lost in a reality that's not yours, and that could also be someone saying what happened over the weekend. And if you don't feel called to answer that text or that call, or even continue that conversation, be like, oh, I need to use the washroom, or I need to leave, or I have an appointment. Like, I don't want you to get to swept up in other people's lives, other people's stories, other people's realities, because that can derail all the positive energy that's coming through on Monday, especially with Venus closing out her transit in Taurus. What makes you comfortable? What makes you cozy? What makes you feel safe? What makes you feel secure? If you are engaging in jobs, relations, mindsets, even clothes, environments, whatever that is, this is your opportunity to ask yourself, like, why am I allowing this story, this narrative, this belief to consistently be present in my life? What new story, what new clothings, what new homes, what new environments, what new types of love do I wish to engage in moving forward? That can be also something as small as like maybe canceling your subscription to Netflix or Hulu or Crave or whatever, and choosing something else. You're like, no, I'm not just going to keep on scrolling and choosing the same TV shows. I want something else to break this cycle, to go and watch different types of documentaries or TV shows or movies or whatever that is. It'd be nice, given that the moon is an immutable sign, maybe switching things up so that when Venus moves into Gemini, which is tomorrow, the 11th, that things might shift for you significantly. All right, so let's move on to Tuesday. Whew, I cannot emphasize this enough. Tuesday is one of the most auspicious days of the entire year. We have this beautiful Sun-Jupiter Cazimi. So I'll say it one more time. Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 is one of the most auspicious days of the entire year. I said at the beginning of this video, the sun is exalted in Aries, and then we have Jupiter right there. So if you have prominent fire energy in and around, let's say 18 to 25 degrees, or just in general prominent fire energy, fire signs being Aries, Sagittarius, or Leo, or prominent cardinal energy, cardinal signs being Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer, this will highly influence you. But for everyone, looking at the house in which Aries rules will help you to see where this massive opportunity, potential, blessing is going to come in. Furthermore, with the sun being so strongly placed in Aries, doing things throughout the day when the sun is present is strong. And this can be anything you want it to be. It can be sending an email to pitch a proposal. It could be taking a relation to the next level. This could be like applying for a job, a program. This could be email marketing or launching that you're taking on new clients on social media. Like, it can be all of the above. Whatever you're wanting most right now, there is this energy of courage, vitality, enthusiasm, that spark for change with Aries. So if this is something that you want to call it, even just sitting in silence and seeing what's coming through intuitively from a spiritual place might be the next step. Or if you don't know how or what you need, there is high activations for this to come in. And the moon starts off in Sagittarius, which makes these trines to the sun and Jupiter. Even if it's a separating trine, it's still there very strongly. So depending on your time zone, first thing in the morning, like, I would not be going on social media unless you need to for work, let's say, to promote something, but containing your energy because the moon is still making that square to Neptune. And if you had firm boundaries on Monday, it's likely that's just going to be this beautiful uprising domino effect. Even like my head is tingling right now. So I feel like there could be huge breakthroughs or just crown chakra activation. So please, 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 please use Tuesday to your advantage. I know I have used this day for many auspicious elections for myself for a good reason. We're not going to get this Sun-Jupiter Cazimi in the sign of Aries until 2035. And remember, the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because the sun is arguably in one of its strongest signs while in Aries. So it's just phenomenal. And this is obviously going to manifest differently for everyone. I don't want you to put undue anxiety or stress. I'm just saying, if there's something that you want, it could be a great deal. It could be applying for something, or even just hearing news. It could be a financial windfall. It could be an investment going really well in your favor. Tuesday is a strong day. And we've been through a lot in these first couple months. And let's be honest, in the past couple of years. So having really strong charged days is just a massive blessing that I want to let you all be aware of. Now, as we move on to Wednesday, we still have this beautiful sun. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about Venus and Gemini. So let's just rewind. Venus and Gemini, this enters April 11th, and it's going to be here for about 3.5 weeks. So this is interesting because Venus is now going to be making a square to Saturn and a trine to Pluto. So this, had you done the work around that Libra full moon, and as a reminder, all my workshops for the new moon and full moons, at least to my knowledge, unless I get a different download, they're going to be free. They're going to be accessible. They're going to be bite-sized, very easy to take in, to do the work. There's some journal prompts. I'll put the link for that as well if you want to go back to it, to the meditation, or just to hear those themes. But I do think, I always say this, I don't think, I know, astrology is very poetic, but it was gearing us up for this Venus and Gemini transit with the square to Saturn, with the trine to Pluto. What does that mean? So Venus and Gemini in general wants that spontaneity, wants that adventure. She's leaving Taurus, where it's all about like having a structure, having that security, making sure that everything is there to make it feel comfortable, that kind of fixed energy, maybe being a bit stubborn, but knowing what it likes and adhering to that. Now it's kind of like a whole new world. Now that you know what it is that keeps you safe and secure and comfortable, now you can branch out. It's kind of like having a home base, or like getting to your hotel on a vacation. It's like, you know where all your stuff is. Now you want to branch out and explore, and go explore the town, the city, the village, wherever you're at. That's Venus and Gemini. She wants to bite out of everything. She wants to try new things, switching up your style, your wardrobe, skincare. It could even be lovers. Like Venus and Gemini can be a little fun. Let's just say that when people natally have this transit or placement, Venus and Gemini, I often find them like juggling multiple lovers, or like being more open to polyamorous relationships or fun experiences. We'll leave it at that. So with this, understanding what your boundaries are will lead to so much more personal power and autonomy. But if you don't have strong boundaries, you're going to be susceptible to power dynamics, maybe not working on your favor. So I need you all, or at least I would advise strongly, to understand what it is you need in relationships. And that came up during the Libra full moon. So if there's something that came up, and that can even just be, again, the relationship with yourself, relationship with money, relationship with friends, relationship with lovers, partners, business partners. It can be whatever that is for you, but understanding what it is you need is going to help you achieve more power. And that is especially true for the rest of this week, because Venus is going to be making that square aspect to Saturn all week long. And I kind of like Venus making a square to Saturn, because Venus on its own, an immutable sign, can be a little wild, unhinged. And some people thrive in that chaotic energy. But I think with Saturn here, it's going to govern Venus and Gemini to keep accountability on our mind. Like we just talked about yesterday and today, we need to have those strong boundaries, or else we're not going to be able to maybe see or take full advantage of the opportunity. So having Venus making a square to Saturn is great, especially just regards to time management, responsibility in relationships. So I know I talked about Tuesday a lot, but there's a lot shifting, and I just feel like everyone is going to see that externally and feel it internally if you haven't felt it already. So when we move on to Wednesday with the moon in Capricorn, we see that, yes, the moon is making a square to Jupiter and the sun, but it's not a bad thing, because Jupiter giving that kind of expansion to the moon, I feel like it's just going to be, there's a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of downloads coming in. So making sure that you have enough energy to enjoy all these things is going to be paramount, because we can also see the moon making trines to Mercury and Uranus. So I just think that for a lot of people, there's going to be massive expansion coming through on Tuesday. That's just a fact. I mean, a Venus-Pluto trine, a Sun-Jupiter Cazimi in Aries, there's going to be lots of downloads, lots of opportunities. I mean, this is what people have been asking for, begging for. If you remember back in January when we were going through all those retrogrades, people were lethargic, asking when it's going to get better, when things going to take off. It's taking off right now. I do also want to emphasize that Mercury is slowing down, getting ready to go retrograde on the 21st. So this would be a really good time, if you're signing leases, contracts, anything, to double check. Even if it seems redundant, if something is unclear, get it in email. Dot your I's, cross your T's, maybe get a second pair of eyes to look over these things, just so that the initial excitement can be great. We want to make sure, again, if we're talking about this Venus-Saturn square, that the communication is firmly placed so that we can allow these emotions to have a safe container to grow and to build. And not that retrogrades are bad by any means. It can also give you an opportunity to reassess things later on. So this is like, I always have the mindset, it's this or better. If I don't get what I want in the moment, I view it as a massive blessing. I'm like, great, something else is going to work in my favor. I'm going to receive more information, whether it's today, next week, next month, next year, it doesn't matter. That's actually the reason why I'm not receiving it right now. So there are certain things that are coming through or like aren't taking place in that exact moment. Trust it, honor it, give gratitude to it, because things are shifting in your favor. But I really do think on Wednesday, with this moon, Mercury, Uranus trine, it'll be an abundance of blessings. And the only way that might cause like stress or anxiety is that's like, how am I going to handle all of this? Or it could be a situation too. We also have the moon making an opposition to Mars. However, there's strong mutual reception given that Mars is exalted in Capricorn, the moon is in its domicile in Cancer. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the full moon workshop, is that if you're not pursuing what makes you happy, you're probably going to be upset. It's kind of like if your friend asks you, where do you want to go out for dinner? And you're like, I don't care. And then they recommend a cuisine that you don't like. You can easily say, oh, I actually don't like that cuisine. Could we maybe try this or this? But if you just idly go along and then you add that meal and then you like have this disdain because you don't like that cuisine, and then you maybe have resentment for that friend who picked it, you need to use your voice. You need to speak up. And this could be a situation where maybe someone in your life is saying something or doing something and you want to speak up just to make sure you're on the same page or to voice how you are feeling. I would highly recommend that you don't hold that back, because like I said, everyone is going to be feeling something on Tuesday. So everyone's lives are about to change. So either you're the one that's being highly activated and sharing that news, and or you're also receiving an influx of emotion or news yourself. So make sure that your emotional needs are met. And this might be challenging because maybe you've never spoken up before. That can also be this Venus Saturn square, and that you need to be able to speak up so that there are new boundaries moving forward. Okay. Once we move to Thursday, the moon is finishing up its transit in Capricorn. It's going to be one of those days where the moon is going to be in Capricorn, but that's also going to be in Aquarius conjunct Pluto. So again, this is a new experience for us, because now with Pluto in Aquarius for the next couple months, whenever the moon is in Aquarius, it's going to have a different tone. So if you track astrology, if you're learning transits yourself, being able to see what this feels like is going to be nice. It's going to be a new way for you to understand how this moon Pluto energy in Aquarius, in that Aquarius ruled house in your chart, is going to manifest. In this regard, we now have the moon still making a very tight square to Jupiter and the sun. So it can be building on the energy of yesterday. I do like this though, given that the moon is now in far away degree from that Mars. So it should be a little bit easier. And we also have the moon making a sextile to Neptune. So be aware on Wednesday night, your dreams are likely to be quite pronounced. And it could be a good opportunity to play with the universe, to manifest whatever you're calling in, to just really ground in onto your spiritual practice. That'll be quite advantageous. When we move on to Friday, the moon is getting very activated. She is feeling it because she is getting into correspondence with many different signs. And I think this, given that Friday is ruled by Venus, Venus is now an aspect to the moon. This, like the moon being in a Saturn ruled sign and Venus an aspect to Saturn, it's like, okay, if you haven't been doing the work all week, it might be a time where you're like, I can no longer avoid this. I need to set some hard boundaries. And again, this doesn't have to be necessarily with other people. That could just be with yourself, where it's like a cold, hard reality check. That can often be the manifestation of an Aquarius or a Capricorn placement, where it's like there's nowhere to run. You haven't been a good steward of your time, and now it's being reflected to you. And maybe there's going to be this pressure of time, or just the truth being revealed to you, or you revealing the truth to other people. It's like, listen, you said this and your actions have proved otherwise, whether that's saying to yourself or to other people. And because the moon here in conjunction with Pluto and then Venus, it's like, I think for all of us in our intimate relationships, it's going to be like, what is it that we need to thrive? And how is our mindset and our scarcity beliefs affecting what we desire in relationships? So I really want you to focus on those key concepts on Friday, because it's likely to come up. And the more that you can just even journal that out and think about that, talk about that, it's going to help significantly. Because look at this, the moon conjunct Pluto, trine Venus, making those applied sextiles to Jupiter and the sun, and making a square to Mercury and Uranus. Like she's basically aspecting every single planet So it is likely that, and it's good because sometimes the moon in Aquarius can be cold or distant. So having all this interaction with all the different planets will make us more emotionally open to see what's coming through on this day so that we can voice whatever it needs to be voiced to expand. And I just think that the use of air energy is going to be advantageous now with Venus in an air ruled sign. The more that you can talk, the more that you can journal, the more that you can meditate, the more that you can calm your mind, the better, especially in regards to being a better use of your time management, to implement boundaries, and to just feel safe in these different spaces. But I made a reference to Legally Blonde 2, in where Reese Witherspoon's character, Elle Woods, talks about if we don't use our voice, we are in for a very, very bad haircut. And this is kind of the vibe here as well, that if you don't use your voice, if you don't shift your mindsets, then things might just feel more chaotic and stressful than they need to. And I think Friday is a good example of that, of where different power dynamics or where different beliefs or different types of communication are going to serve you better. Saturday, now the moon is further along. And for me, the entire weekend is really centered around kind of slowing down. As we saw, there's a lot of different activations happening throughout the week. So if you can relax a little bit, we do have the moon now in direct sextile to Jupiter and the sun. So there could be really nice ideas, new innovation. But with the moon getting closer and closer to Saturn, with it also being conjunct Saturn on Sunday, good opportunity to rest. Good opportunity to not have to take things as fast. And we're also seeing that we're gearing up for that second Aries new moon. So now we're in this proximity of the dark moon phase, the balsamic moon phase anyway. So just take the weekend to relax, to unwind. Of course, if you feel inspired, if you feel great, use it to your advantage. But especially on Sunday, I want you to notice how the moon in Pisces has a different feel to it now that it's co-present Saturn, because this is going to be a transit, remember, that we're experiencing, the transit being Saturn in Pisces until 2026. So now with moon in Pisces, before it was just co-present Neptune, which had a different flavor compared to it being co-present with Saturn as well, and now making that square to Venus. So there could be situations around feminine energy, a feminine person, feminine traits in general, around like rest. You might feel like you have to go. You've been building all this momentum. It's not prudent or advantageous to slow down and rest. What are those feelings coming up? Is there any kind of discomfort around taking time to rest, taking time to unwind, see what's coming through on Sunday so you can start to feel what this moon Saturn in Pisces feels like for you, especially in that Pisces rule part of your chart. And then secondly, it's not all bad per se. The moon is making a sextile to Mercury and Uranus. So doing something creative, doing something that you can relax a little bit, even just like taking a walk in nature, playing with your pet, playing a game, doing a puzzle, watching your favorite movie, getting lost in a fantasy. This could be a proper use of you actively prioritizing these things and seeing how this shifts with Venus. It could also be like your partner being like, hey, let's go do this, and this. And you're like, I love that for you, but I need to take time to rest. And that can be maybe where you're feeling like that Pisces moon of like, I don't want to hurt my partner's feelings or that friend's feelings, but I need to take care of myself first. That could be a very active manifestation of the energies on Sunday. Okay. One final thing as well, the moon is making a trine to Mars here on Sunday. So that could also just be you being very productive with the rest, or seeing how like the rest and relaxation or even like cleaning is very lethargic, and how you setting time for yourself and whatever rest means for you can restore your energy quite quickly. So just be very careful with what and to whom you give your energy to over the weekend. All right. So for the astrology question of the week, I get this in different forms when we have different lunations, like a new moon or a full moon, but especially an eclipse. And people are like, should I be worried if I'm this with this full moon? So for example, we just had the Libra full moon. So a lot of Libras, whether they were a Libra sun, rising, or moon, were saying, oh, like, I'm really curious to see how that's going to affect me. Like, what should I do to prepare? So if we're talking about how to specifically note where that's coming in, looking at your natal chart to see where that sun moon placement would be. If it's your rising, of course, a full moon, a new moon, an eclipse is going to be your whole self, identity, autonomy. But let's say Libra rules your ninth whole sign house. If it's in your ninth house, then themes around higher learning, university, spirituality, religion, publishing, editing, storytelling, international affairs, languages. Like there's so many topics where that full moon activation could be affecting your sun or your moon or any other personal planets, right? Mercury, Venus, Mars. And a lot of times when I post on social media, like on Instagram, and I'll say, oh, for this Libra full moon, if you have prominent Libra placements, it's okay to take it easy, take time to rest. I'll often get one or two people being like, what are you talking about? I'm a Libra blank and I feel great. I feel amazing. Awesome. If you feel highly inspired and activated from that transit, go with that. When I'm giving those general descriptors, I'm doing that for the mass majority. It's kind of like when I do a general tarot scope, I can't obviously make it specific to each person. There are billions of people in the world. And of course, everyone has different configurations. So maybe your Jupiter is in Libra, or you have Jupiter in a fellow air sign. So that full moon activation is getting the benevolence of Jupiter being activated at the same time, or Venus, or both. However, with this specific full moon in Libra, the moon was going straight into Scorpio after, which is why I want to say, just to be aware for everyone in regards to the themes of Libra, which can be love, beauty, justice, balance, internally and externally, something is likely to come up during this full moon, and then the integration is going to be taking place while the moon is in Scorpio conjunct the South Node. I also, like I said from the beginning, if you want to go really deep into this, especially with the upcoming second new moon partial solar eclipse in Aries, that you can look to the Aries part of your chart to be like, okay, this is going to get further activated. That's where the Sun-Jupiter Cazimi is going to be taking place on Tuesday, April 11th. That way you can use astrology in a fun, predictive method. And also, I find, especially when I work with clients and I get them to say intuitively, what do you feel like is coming up for you in the next month, 6 months, year, whatever the time frame they want to work in, their intuition's always guiding them right. Their intuition is saying, oh, get ready for a big expansion around home, children, finances, opportunity, whatever it is. Like your intuition already knows. And so when the astrology is pointing in that direction as well, it just further affirms that you're on the right path, that you're at the right place in your journey. At least in my experience, it helps to alleviate any stress or anxiety. So if I or any other astrologer or spiritual worker is saying things, it's likely from a general perspective. But at least for me with the astrology, I try and pinpoint it so that if you have your natal chart, you can look to that part of your chart to see how it's being activated. And that way you can either work backwards or work preemptively to see how you can use that activation in your life, no matter how you're feeling at that given time. It's all, like I said, very poetic. That full moon in Libra was getting us ready for Venus moving into Gemini, making a trine to Pluto and a square to Saturn. I always think that the universe is supporting us. It's always giving these heads up. It's whether or not we want to do the work and listen. I've given the example before of doing your taxes. It's like, if you know it's coming up every year, you can prepare a little bit each day, or you can do it all at the end. Either way, they're going to get done one way or other. It's the ease and how your diligence and how your work ethic supports you that can help you with that process every year, or maybe make it feel stressful. And either way, you're going to get it done. Either way, these transits are going to happen. You're going to learn the lessons one way or the other. You can work with the astrology or not. It's completely up to you. I assume if you've already watched at the end of this video, you like using the astrology, you see its value, and you understand the power that it holds to completely elevate your life in all ways. All right. So let me know how that resonates. I've been holding this coffee probably for like the last 30 minutes, but it was worth it for the story. And let me know if there's any other general questions, comments that you'd like answered in a future video. And have a beautiful week ahead. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.